What if the internet had grown up differently? Not just the apps we use, but the whole foundation, the way we share, the way we talk, the way we learn about the world. The internet didn't have to look the way it does now. There was another version that almost became reality. And knowing that helps us see how much might still be changed. The internet isn't something we step into for a few minutes and then leave behind. It shapes how we communicate, what we pay attention to, and what we believe is normal. It influences our friendships, our identity, and even how we think. When the internet changes, we change too. So understanding how it took its current form helps us understand the world we live in every day. The beginnings of the internet go back to the 1960s. At that time, the world felt tense and uncertain. Different countries were competing for power during the Cold War. The United States wanted a communication system that could still work even if parts of it were destroyed. Researchers were asked to design a network that didn't rely on a single location. If one part went down, the rest would still function. The system they built was called ARPANET. At first, only a handful of universities and research labs used it. Messages moved slowly. The network was small, but the idea behind it was powerful. It allowed people in different places to share information instantly without sending letters or traveling across the country. The people using this early network were mostly scientists and engineers. They shared research and collaborated on projects. They trusted each other. Because of this, the system didn't have much security. There was no reason to hide information. No one expected hacking or scams. The goal was to share knowledge freely. The environment felt open and supportive. In 1989, a computer scientist named Tim Berners-Lee introduced something that changed everything. He created the World Wide Web. His idea was to make it easy to connect documents using simple links. If someone made a page, anyone could click a link and follow it to another page. It created a network of ideas that anyone could move through. The early web had no ads and no trackers. There were no companies building profiles of users. The web was open. It was a place to learn, explore, and share. At that time, people built personal websites. These sites looked simple. They had plain backgrounds, a few images, and text about what the site's creator cared about. But they had personality. Each site felt like visiting someone's personal space. Browsing the web felt like wandering through a series of small, unique rooms. Online communities formed on message boards and forums. People gathered to discuss hobbies, ask questions, and share ideas. Conversations unfolded slowly. Responses could take hours or days. There wasn't pressure to reply instantly or to get attention quickly. The goal was to connect and learn. But as more people came online in the 1990s, everything started to change. The web was no longer something only researchers used. It was becoming a place where the general public spent time. And when millions of people gather in one place, businesses pay attention. Companies saw the web as an opportunity. They started building websites that weren't just individual spaces, but platforms. On these platforms, people could create accounts, post content, and interact. It was easier than building a personal website from scratch. You didn't need coding knowledge, you just logged in and started sharing. At first this felt helpful, it brought more people online, it made connection easier. But this shift came with a price that wasn't obvious at first. On these platforms, users didn't own their space anymore. The platform owned it. The platform set the rules. The platform controlled the data. What you posted lived on their servers, not in your personal control. Governments also began paying attention. They saw the internet's growing influence. In some places, leaders pushed for protection of open information. In others, leaders focused on control and restriction. The internet became part of a larger network of power. Meanwhile, there were people who wanted to keep the internet open. They believed the web should be something everyone could take part in equally. They supported open source software, which allows anyone to view and improve the code. They built tools meant to give users control instead of companies. Some of these ideas made it into real projects. Personal servers allowed individuals to store their data privately. Peer-to-peer networks connected users directly, without needing a central server controlled by a company. A project called Project Xanadu proposed a web where documents stayed connected to their sources, so ideas could be traced and credited properly. And systems like Usenet allowed large discussions that weren't owned or directed by any single organization. These approaches treated the internet as a shared public space. But as the number of people online grew into the billions, many users chose convenience. Managing your own website or server took time and technical skill. Platforms offered something easier. With just a few taps, you could share photos, send messages, or find entertainment. Convenience became the determining factor. To stay free, these platforms needed another source of revenue. They chose advertising. To increase advertising income, they needed users to stay online longer. That meant designing systems that kept attention. Over time, algorithms learned to show content that held attention the longest. Posts that caused strong emotional reactions tended to keep users watching. So those posts were shown more often. This began to shape what people saw online. Instead of exploring freely, users were guided by automated feeds. These feeds didn't always show what was most helpful or most thoughtful. They showed what was most attention-grabbing. Many people began to feel the effects of this shift. Some felt overwhelmed by the constant flow of information. Some felt pressure to perform or present themselves a certain way. Others felt like online spaces had become loud, tense, or exhausting. The internet had changed, not because of one decision, but because of many small decisions guided by convenience and profit. But the earlier vision of the web didn't disappear. It continued quietly in different groups and projects. Some modern tools are designed to return control to users. A system called Solid lets people store their data in private data vaults they control. A system called IPFS stores files across many computers, so no single group controls them. Platforms like Mastodon allow communities to host their own social networks while still connecting with others. These approaches don't rely on capturing attention, they rely on cooperation. The open source movement is still strong. Many of the most important parts of today's internet are built and maintained by volunteers. They create because they want to contribute to something shared. This shows that collaboration at scale is possible. Younger developers are also asking new questions. They're studying how online spaces affect mental health. They're thinking about how to design platforms that support thoughtful conversation rather than rapid reaction. They're looking at how to reduce pressure and competition online. The internet isn't finished. It's still evolving. The systems we use now aren't locked in place. They can be changed. They can be rebuilt. They can move closer to the values of openness, curiosity, and meaningful connection. There is a path where online communities are smaller and more personal, where discovery comes from exploring rather than being pushed, where people own their data and choose how it's used, where communication feels slower, calmer, and more human. This isn't about nostalgia, it's about direction. The internet didn't have to become what it is today, and it doesn't have to stay this way. The future of the internet depends on the choices we make now, the platforms we support, the tools we use, the habits we form, the way we choose to communicate. The internet reflects us, and if we want it to change, that change begins with how we decide to take part in it. A different internet is still possible. What would the internet look like in your ideal world? Comment your thoughts below and don't forget to like and subscribe while you're there.